I don't want to scare anyone, but I'm going to give it to you straight about Jason. His body was never recovered from the lake after he drowned. And if you listen to the old-timers in town, they'll tell you he's still out there.
I wanted to be in film, and I started first by getting jobs in local filmmakers where I grew up in Westport, Connecticut, far from Hollywood as possible. And I heard that someone in town was making a movie. And I had been working as an assistant editor and a gopher and stuff like that. And so I chased this production down, which was a crew of about 4 or 5 people. And they had been shooting for a week. And I got myself a job, $15 a week, to do what anybody told me to do. And Sean Cunningham was producing, Wes Craven had written and was directing. And Victor Hurowitz, who is no longer with us, was shooting it. Last House on the Left. And they were shooting, I had some really good friends who were renting a house in this little enclave in Westport. And there were only supposed to be 2 guys in there. There were about 6 guys renting this house. And they rented it out to the production of Last House on the Left. So it was kind of a crazy mess, the whole thing. I think the title really helped. I think that the It's Only a Movie tagline, which was the first time that was ever used, was really clever. And for some reason, some people went to see it. Anyway, so that's how I met Sean, doing Last House on the Left, and Wes Craven, and we got along. I ended up Wes's assistant editor on there, and we just became sort of a, 3 of us were always together, working together, trying to get movies going, doing stuff in New York. We worked out of a building in New York City. When I decided I wanted to get into film and move back to Connecticut to do that, to be a Hollywood director, I just knew that's what I wanted to do, and I also felt that I needed to learn to do everything about filmmaking. And it's very different back there than it is in Hollywood, where everything is segmented. You've got an editing department, that's it. If you're going to go that route, it's really hard to move out of that. And in the New York area, it was very different. But I just started doing everything. And if anybody asked me if I could do something, I said yes. And then I'd go read a book. And I learned by doing. I mean, I did sound, I did editing, I did assistant camera, I did line producing, I did production management, I did assistant directing. I did everything. And kind of low budget, and some sports films and some educational films, but always with an eye of trying to learn what I could to move into directing. So, and I had to make a living too. That was the other thing, is I didn't want to, work in a restaurant, or I'd been a short order cook in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, to be a ski bum. And I wanted to stay in the industry of film. And so, and to make a living doing that, no matter how little I was paid, I didn't want to have to do another job. So I ended up having actually an editing business. I cut films for a bunch of companies in New York City, and then I was also a production manager, line producer type guy that I would get hired occasionally. But during all this time, I was always in touch with Wes and with Sean, and we were working on different movie projects. And we were just always together. And Wes was a very close friend. Sean was as well. I mean, we were together all the time. And Wes at some point moved out to California, and he was doing a TV movie with Linda Blair or something like that. And I had written a script, and Sean had taken that and a couple other scripts and went to California to try to get him financed, get some money to make these scripts. And he called me from California and said, "I had a great idea for a title." And and he told me, "That's a great idea, Sean." We had an ad made up, took out with our last pennies a full-page ad in Weekly Variety saying our movie's going to be ready, and that was Friday the 13th. We didn't even have a script when we took out this ad in Weekly Variety. And anyway, so we ended up getting it made. Sean got the money from people who would finance Last House on the Left, and we got the movie made. And I produced it with Sean. I was the line producer and also, worked on the script with him and Victor a little bit. And we got it done. Obviously, it was a big success. And Sean immediately got an offer from Paramount to direct, we want you to do a movie here. And he wasn't available to do the sequel. And Phil Scuderi, who controlled the rights, he was very smart about all this stuff. Street guy from Boston, kind of a brilliant man. Paramount only had the right for first refusal for distribution of any sequels. And so Phil called me up and he goes, Steve, I wish I could do a Boston accent because he did a great Boston accent. He said, Steve, we want to do the sequel. We have to do the sequel and I want you to produce it. Because we had a relationship and he trusted me. So I want you to produce it. I said, Phil, I'd love to. I'll do it if you'll let me direct. And I kind of like to say, I don't know if he knew the difference. He said, okay. But I think he really did know the difference. And I think he checked with Sean. And Sean said, oh, I know what happened. Sean said, sure. And then Sean called me up. He goes, I'll back you to direct this if you'll hire my wife as the editor. So I hired Susan, his wife, as the editor. And I went on to make this sequel, Friday the 13th Part 2. So that's how I got my first big directing gig.
Jason's out there. Watching. Always on the prowl for intruders. Waiting to kill.
For Friday the 13th Part 3, I came to Hollywood after I moved out to LA for the second time after I finished Friday the 13th Part 2. And I figured, all right, here I am, I'm a director. They're gonna start giving me, I'm gonna see all those good scripts. I'm gonna get those jobs. Well, first of all, Friday the 13th was a total outsider thing. So I didn't know anybody in Hollywood, and everybody kind of looked down on that, I think, and also were somewhat jealous of the deal that we got on that movie with how much money the producers made on that movie. And so anyway, I wasn't getting any offers. I mean, I couldn't even get a Chuck Norris movie. So I was sitting around and thinking, what the hell? I didn't really want to do another Friday the 13th, but I thought, I got an idea. Friday 3 in 3D. So I called Phil Scuderi, who was the owner of the franchise and the financier. I said, Phil, Friday the 13th in 3D. He said, yes, great idea. Okay, and that's what we did. There was a little boom of 3D movies at the time, and some theaters and some distributors were gearing up with the gear that you needed at that time. And Paramount was interested in pursuing this thing, converting theaters and having 3D as really a marketing gimmick. And so it just sort of fit in. And I knew it would because, that's why the idea occurred to me that it'd be a perfect marketing tool. For me, I'm not a big 3D fan. I'll avoid 3D movies as possible. So my thought about doing this in 3D was, listen, everybody's going to get a headache. Might as well give them something to get a headache about. So I came up with this idea of putting an eyeball out into the audience. I learned about 3D. You can't break the proscenium of the theater screen or the 3D effect goes away. So you need small stuff to push out there. I thought, eyeball's perfect. So we're getting on the set. And we lined this up with the guy's fake head and the thing, and their idea was we're going to put a little rod behind the thing and we'll push it right towards the lens. And I'm lining up, the cameraman's lining up, we're going, yeah, look, we got it just like that. Then all of a sudden I go, oh shit, you got two eyes in this camera. It sees the rod no matter where you put it. And anyway, we figured it out some way. I forget how we did it, but. It's funny, sometimes you don't think those things through, but it worked out, and yeah, it's stupid, but so's 3D.
What are you doing? Hey, now cut that out right now. That's not funny.
Okay, so I can't get a job after doing Friday the 13th Part 2. Then I can't get a job after doing Friday the 13th Part 3. And I figure, okay, well, that's because everybody thinks I'm a horror director and that's all I can do. And I don't know, and they're in Hollywood and they think I'm a rube from Connecticut or something. I have no idea. So I was actually lying in a friend's pool in the valley and I'm thinking, what the hell am I going to do? And then I thought, when I was a kid, there was a time when Godzilla was on every afternoon on the TV, and we would all watch it. I thought, that's it, Godzilla in 3D. So I had that idea, and I called up my lawyer, who was in New York. I said, I had some conversation with Toho Company in Japan about getting the rights to, and the Friday the 13th Part 3 had just come out. It was a big hit. I think it really did better than any of the other ones. And so I got in touch with this company, Toho, which owned Godzilla. We were able to put together this deal with Toho that I got the rights to Godzilla and some money from them to develop it. And I started trying to find a writer to write the script, and somehow stumbled across a sample script by Fred Decker. And it was a very clever time travel movie that I guess never got made, but it was very, very well written, good characters and funny and all that stuff. And so I got in touch with him through his agent and hired him to write Godzilla in 3D, and had it set up at Warner Brothers and various other places for a lot of different reasons. It never got made, but the script was fantastic, and I knew Fred, and Fred introduced me, and I got to know these guys called Pato guys with Shane Black and a bunch of these other couple actors and a couple writers, and very talented, fun guys. And one of sort of the outside of that circle was this guy Ethan Wiley, who had written a spec script. And Fred said, you know, you should read Ethan's script. I think you'd like it. So I read House. It was called House. And I read the script and I go, geez, this is, I get this movie. I can make a horror comedy. People see that I'm not just a horror director. I'm going to get this made. And so I figure the best way to get it made, I'll call Sean, and he'll produce it. He wasn't doing, I mean, I don't know, he wasn't directing anything at the time. And it's a, slam dunk. It's me and Sean, and how's anybody not going to finance this movie? We got this script to the studio, one of the smaller studios, said, okay, we're going to make this movie. So that Friday, I go buy a new car. Monday morning, they call, we're not going to make your movie. What the hell? How am I going to pay for this car? Anyway, so we ended up turning it around, getting it set up at New World Cinema. And New World financed the movie and was very, very supportive. And, and the movie turned out, people liked it.
He wanted me to warn you. Look upon this omen and go back from whence ye came. I have warned thee.
Well, first of all, the reason I didn't continue on with the franchise, I was busy doing other things. I was doing pilots, but I think what I did immediately after was Soul Man. And through those writers, producers, I did Wonder Years with them, the pilot. But the main reason I didn't continue on was because I was working and doing other stuff. But I don't think I would have continued. I think I did what I wanted to do with House, which was to do something different from straight horror. And the only thing I felt I could get made was a horror movie. And the only way I could move on with my career was to make it different than every other horror movie. And I think nobody realized it was a comedy until it was done. I really don't think they did. The studio didn't. They had no idea. Wes split off only because he went out to California first. He got an offer. There was this guy who was kind of a producer guy who was just a big fan of Wes's and brought him out to California. And once you get out to LA, you don't leave this place. The weather's great, the women are beautiful. I mean, where are you going to go? Anyway, so Wes just stayed out here, and Sean and I stayed in Connecticut until we finished the first Friday movie. And actually I did the second Friday movie out of Connecticut as well. But we never split as far as being friends. Wes and Sean and I, we stayed friends But we all followed a different path. You know, Wes went on his path and I went on mine, and Wes only made one non-genre movie, Music from the Heart or something like that. But you know, I just didn't want to stay in genre movies all my life. And although I love genre movies, and obviously I go back and forth and have done them since, but so it was nothing other than just our careers took separate paths. But as a personally, we always stayed close. What got me back into the genre was the idea of doing Halloween H2O. I love the idea. First of all, I love Jamie Lee Curtis. We're very close friends, and I love working with her. And she had got Kevin Williamson, who I was very close to. Did the Dawson's Creek pilot with, and we were very close friends. And Kevin basically wrote that movie. He doesn't have credit for it, but basically he kind of wrote that movie. And so between Kevin and Jamie, I got back into H2O, and into doing horror, Halloween. So there's two factions in the Halloween franchise. There's Miramax, which owned the distribution rights, and then there was Mustafa Akkad, who owned the rights. And so, you know, Kevin and I and Jamie told Bob Weinstein, listen, we're not going to do this unless we can kill Michael Myers. He goes, sure, do it. I don't care what you do. I don't care. So, you know, we come up with this script where she chops Michael Myers' head off. Mustafa Akkad reads this script and goes bananas. He goes, Michael Myers is my favorite person in the world. You can't kill him. I mean, he's the golden goose to this guy, right? You can't kill him. You can't kill him. And we said, but, and then Jamie and I were like, what are we gonna? And Kevin Williamson goes, I got it. Let us kill him if I write the first scene in the next movie that shows how he's actually still alive. Genius. So Kevin wrote that scene. Oh, and Jamie had to commit to act in it, and Kevin had to commit to write that first scene. And Kevin had a great idea, you know, how it would all work. And so we originally had no plans for, you know, anything but killing Michael Myers. In order to make that movie, we had to figure out how to resurrect him. Kevin said, well, I don't know, you know, in the movie that he's dead. Jamie knows he's not really dead. So she steals the ambulance and starts driving it away, and he comes alive in the back, and they have this whole thing. And Kevin said, well, obviously what Michael did was put the guard or somebody, the ambulance attendant, under that sheet and made it so he couldn't talk. And so she killed the ambulance attendant, not Michael Myers. And that's what they ended up doing for the next show.
Sandra.
I had also been working with in TV a little bit, you know, off and on. I'd do different stuff, and pilots and other things. And I read the script, Lake Placid. It was written by David E. Kelley, who is probably one of the most successful and best TV writers in the history of TV. And I had worked with him in a couple of different of his shows. We were friends and became friendly, rather, because of my working on a couple of his different shows. And I think that's how I got the script. I think David gave me that script because he'd known I had done some genre movies. And I said, David, I want to do this. This is great. He said, okay, well, let's see if we can set it up with you. And so somehow, while I was finishing H2O, I got Lake Placid. And we were having trouble getting it financed because, unbeknownst to me, the script had already been around to all the different studios. I didn't know that everybody had turned it down. And I got it to my very close friend at the time. I mean, I've known him for so many years, Stan Winston, who was a really close friend of mine. And he loved the script. He said, and I said, you know, we just don't have it set up yet. I said, okay, I'm just going to make this crocodile. And he put probably $1 million of his own money into building this crocodile on spec at his studio in the Valley. I mean, a full-size animatronic crocodile. And it was beautiful, as you can imagine. And we, by this time, you know, a couple of producers were involved, and they brought in KenL.Parker to Stan's studio. And there's this huge frickin' crocodile sitting on the bench, and they get it to move. I could tell right then we got the money.